This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Here's your host, Brandon Contes.
Alrighty, welcome to episode 71 of the Awful Announcing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Contes, and this week we are joined by former NFL quarterback and host of Outta Pocket with RG3, Robert Griffin III. Robert, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, and I'm gonna I'll come right out and start with the question that I think a lot of us want to know. Were you actually surprised by the direction the internet ran with your croissant picture from
Well, Brandon, that is not the question I thought you were going to start with, but thank you for having me on the show.
Of course.
You guys have been absolutely killing it, so happy for you guys and your business. But with the croissant picture, I was completely surprised. I had an opportunity to go to the Olympics and spend some time in Paris. I think we interviewed 6 Olympians, 3 Olympic gold medalists. So it was really cool experience. And the one thing over there that they do is they have the giant croissant. So you'll see a bunch of that on TikTok at different places. And TikTok actually had contacted us and wanted us to do some content with the big croissant. And we did that. It did well on social. So then we took the picture eating the croissant, and the internet did what the internet does, man. And I can't tell you, to this day, I still get comments on it on Twitter and Instagram. My Instagram video from back then, 2 months ago, is continuing to grow. I think it's at 3 million views on Instagram. It's at over 100,000 likes. It's continuing to grow. So people are enjoying themselves and having a good time, but it's not anything I run away from, man. I'm always going to be okay with eating a croissant with my wife.
Yeah, that was a tremendous picture. Did you ever get close to competing in the Olympics in track and field?
Yes, I did. I don't know if you know my history like that, and it's been a while, right? I'm only 34 years old, but
yeah.
I competed in college in 2008 when I was supposed to be a high school senior in the spring. Won the Big 12 championship in the 400 hurdles. I got 3rd at nationals as an 18-year-old. And then I went on to the Olympic trials as an 18-year-old and placed 11th, I believe, at the Olympic trials as an 18-year-old. So I was very close. I was the fastest. I believe I'm the fastest 17-year-old ever in the 400 hurdles worldwide. So it was a dream. It's why I went to college a semester early to run. Not a lot of people know that I actually ran track in college before I ever played football. And I almost went pro after that. Thank God that I didn't, just from my family standpoint and a financial standpoint. But I didn't know that growing up. I was just chasing my dream. So, yes, I got close. It's why I hold the sport so near and dear to me. And it's been an honor to call the last 3 NCAA national championships.
And did you ever consider training for that again after that that time?
I did. In 2017, I was out of the NFL, and I was actually transitioning back to track and field. So I trained football the entire time, but I got a couple workouts and got a few calls, but it felt like I was being blackballed from the NFL. And I was training with my wife, who was a competitive professional track and field athlete in heptathlon. Taught me how to throw the javelin. So I was actually transitioning back and was going to get back into the 400 hurdles and also become a decathlete. And I was weighing about 187 pounds. I had dropped 25 pounds worth of weight, and I got a call from the Baltimore Ravens. So that ended up interrupting that, because I was 27 and I wanted to keep competing, but an opportunity to go to Baltimore and compete with Joe Flacco and then eventually mentor Lamar Jackson was just something I couldn't pass up.
Yeah. Why did it feel like you were being blackballed by the NFL?
No, just the talent, being a second pick in the draft, 27-year-old who had just came from Cleveland. Don't get me wrong, I didn't play well when I was in Cleveland. I got hurt first game of the year and then came back and played the last 4 games of the season. And I don't think that would have got me opportunities to be a starter anywhere else. That's just looking at it, with an honest view. But the talent as a 27-year-old and the opportunities that quarterbacks get in the NFL, how many opportunities they get. certainly thought that I would get another one, but it just was an interesting dynamic there. I don't want to get too deep into that. I'm not trying to Colin Kaepernick anything here.
Sure.
It was just more of from the opportunities that had been bestowed upon others. You certainly would have thought that a 27-year-old Heisman Trophy winner, second pick in the draft, would have gotten more than just those two opportunities. So it was just something that I had to work through, continue to fight through. Not anything that I pointed the finger at anybody and said, "Hey, I need them to do this. I need them to do that." I just continue to work, and it paid off because when the Baltimore Ravens called, I was ready to go.
Flag football is being added to the Olympics in 2028. Is that something that interests you?
In what capacity?
Playing. Could you see yourself competing for the U.S. in the 2028 Olympics in flag football?
Brandon, if the NFL was to say, "Hey, if you compete for the next 4 years in flag football and you become one of the best in the world at flag football," yes, 1,000% I would do it. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I mean, Jared Goff right now. I mean, Jared Goff's, played himself into the MVP race. Those guys are going to be the ones that play quarterback for the USA flag football team in the Olympics, because it's the NFL's biggest opportunity to grow the game, right? Everyone watches the Olympics. The Olympics is bigger than the Super Bowl. And the only thing that might be bigger than that is the World Cup. So if you're the NFL and you have players that can play the sport at a high level, I know that they're going to I think the flag football portion of the Olympics is moved up so that it doesn't impact training camp. It's not happening in the middle of training camp.
Yeah. Why
would they not go get the biggest stars in the world and tell them to go play? I mean, the Tyreek Hills, if he's still playing in 4 years, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, the DK Metcalfs. You're talking about the most visible football players in the world. I don't think that the guys that are playing right now on the flag football team for the U.S., although they are the best in the world and they are, I believe, the reigning world champions, they're not household names. So the NFL is probably going to make these superstars learn the game, work hard at it. And I'm not saying they're just going to hand it over to them, but I think that would be the possibility. Now, if they're not going to do that and they're going to say, "Hey, no, if you play on the team and you're one of the best in the world, we're going to let you play." Oh yeah, sign me up, Brandon. I'll go play right now. But I'll always look at it with a business mindset as well. And it's the best thing for business for the NFL to have Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson be the starting quarterback. Now, can I play wide receiver? I think I can play wide receiver. But but at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to how many pros want to play. And if they come back with something different after this interview, shoot, sign me up, man. I'd love it. I'm still young. I enjoy the game, and I enjoy calling it. So if anything, if I don't get to play, I'd love to call it at the Olympics.
Yeah, I would think that teams would be hesitant to let their stars compete there just because of injury reasons. So like I get the NFL wanting to showcase the stars, but also will the Kansas City Chiefs want Patrick Mahomes competing in the Olympics playing flag football a couple months before the season starts?
And Brandon, that's the only hope for the guys that are playing right now. Because I've called flag football. It's a different game, and these guys are super talented. I know that quarterback got ramsacked by the internet because he said that he was better at flag football than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But if you go watch the games, it's a different game. So if the NFL comes out and says they're not going to do what we think or what I think they're going to do because of the reasons that you just mentioned about safety, sign me up. I'll be ready to go tomorrow.
All right, we're nearly 2 months into the football season now. You were obviously preparing for a pretty busy schedule with ESPN. So how has it been just adjusting to the college football and NFL seasons now without ESPN on your plate?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more free time, right? But at the same time, I think when I look at this holistically, the best part about it, you got to make what's the phrase? Chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? I don't think anybody anticipated this. I certainly wasn't anticipating it. Gave everything I had to ESPN from a standpoint of calling games to the best of my ability, being a great teammate, having a lot of fun with the crews, helping revive Monday Night Countdown, and get the younger demographic involved. So I have no regrets of anything that I was able to accomplish there, and the people that I was able to work with. I miss the people for sure, behind the scenes, the ones that don't get any credit for what happens in front of the camera. But my best takeaway is, man, I just get to be so much more of a better dad. And I got 4 daughters. So that was something that I've always, I don't want to say tussled with. It's something that I've always focused on. I want my family to be with me wherever I am, wherever I'm going. My first year at ESPN, my family traveled with me every week. All I did was call games for college football. Then called 18 games with Mark Jones, Quint Kesenick, our director, our producer, Kim Belton, and our director, Anthony DeMarco. And those guys became family. They started calling my kids the mascots, right? Because they were everywhere. Every game we went to, they were there with us, and they kept us alive. It's not just the mundane pushing on the talk back, pushing the cough button when you got a cough, and calling the game. It's experiencing the college football landscape, the traditions, the fans, the players, telling the stories with that backdrop of knowing that your kids are the reason that you're doing it anyway. And if I'm going to tell another young man or young woman's story on air at ESPN, I want to handle that story with the same care that I would if I was telling my kid's story. So I think that part of it has been phenomenal, just being able to be here, teach my kids, see them learn and grow, learning math, learning how to read, learning how to write, seeing them comprehend things better. It's a blessing to be able to be a dad. And I know it sounds like so mundane and so normal, but it's something that I take pride in, being able to teach them the different sports. So that part of it has been a lot of fun. And I've still been able to engage with the fans via social media, engage with the fans through the podcast, Outta Pocket with RG3, which I do with my wife, who's my co-host, who's the record holder at Florida State in the heptathlon. And all my football knowledge that I've been pouring into the fans for the last 4 years, she has all of that now because she's the one that I practiced on. So it's really cool to have somebody, beside me, with me, that knows me, and can get the best out of me in that regard. And I can be a better husband, a better father, and still give the fans what they love about the energy and the excitement and the positivity for the game. So for me, it's that's my big takeaway. I'm grateful for what happened because it's allowed me to be with my kids more and see them grow. And it's something that maybe some other analysts don't care about. Maybe they don't, I'm not saying that they're bad parents or whatever. Maybe they don't have little kids. Maybe they don't want to be at home because they don't like their at home life. But I love my wife and I love my kids and I enjoy that process. So it's been fun. And I hope the fans have seen the excitement and the love for the game still for me.
Were you always interested in doing media? Is that something? Did you seek those opportunities while you were playing?
I did not. And Brandon, this is the crazy part about it, right? When you get drafted number 2 overall, you go into it and you put the work in, and you make sure you work harder than you did when you were not a pro. And that's the approach that I took to it, so that I thought I'd be able to play for 20, 25 years. Well, guess what? Sometimes life has other plans. Sometimes God has a different plan for you. And for me, I never wanted to get into media. And the reason I never wanted to get into media is because I felt, and a lot of people felt, that I was not treated the right way by the media. The narratives, whatever might be said, and you have to continue to push to be the person that you are, not who they want you to be. And this, perception sometimes can be reality, but that perception doesn't impact everyone, but it feels like it's coming down on you like hot lava at times. You got to remember who you are. So I never wanted to get into it because of what I saw and how negative it can be and how negative it's become. But once I was out of the league in 2017, I realized that I wanted to make sure I had a plan, a transition plan after my playing days. So I got back in 2018 into the NFL. I did not pursue media opportunities while I was still a player because I was a backup quarterback to Lamar Jackson, and I wanted to be the best backup quarterback I could be to Lamar and for the team, as opposed to pursuing opportunities while I was still a player. Now, some guys do it. That's their own prerogative. But once I was out in 21, I waited 6 months, 5 or 6 months. And there was this media agent who had been bothering me for 3 years to get into TV. And I just didn't want to do it. So I took an audition with Fox and it went really, really well. Kevin Burkhardt was the call for my audition with Fox. And they told me that I blew them away with it. ESPN got word of it. They brought me in, had me do an audition with them for calling games and also in the studio. Same thing Fox did. And Reese Davis was my caller on that game. And Laura Rutledge was the host for when I did my studio audition. And they were blown away with it as well. So that's what kind of got me into it, knowing that, hey, maybe this is what God's called me to do, because these networks are blown away by what I was able to accomplish in that audition. And Seth Markman, a lot of people know Seth from ESPN behind the scenes. Seth was told me it was the best audition he's ever seen. So when that was said, I was like, okay, maybe there is something here. And the best part about those auditions was I was able to be myself. The positive, fun-loving, energetic announcer who loves the game and loves to tell his guys stories the right way. And I think that's what impressed the networks. So I just went into it saying, I'm going to do it my way. That's not going to be the yell in your face, tell you how trash you are. It's going to be bring the energy, show you what is important about the game, and have constructive criticism when it's time to criticize. Not just trash, but hey, this was a bad play. This is why. And I'm continuing to stand by that. And I think that's why I was able to shoot up the ranks so quickly at ESPN.
Was Kevin Burkhardt just doing the audition, or were you auditioning to be working with Kevin Burkhardt when you did that?
That's a question for Fox. I don't know if I was auditioning to work with Kevin at that time. I believe Kevin and Greg Olson, they were not working together yet, but I'm pretty sure that pairing was already in place, if you know what I'm saying. But I just think they wanted to see me with their top guy. ESPN did the same thing because Reese Davis is one of the top guys and has been one of the top guys for a very long time. They wanted to see how I could hang and or how I could relate to those guys calling a game. Because if you can call a game with Kevin Burkhardt and Reese Davis, you can call a game with anybody. At least that's how I feel. I got a lot of respect for both guys. Reese was great to me while I was at ESPN. Kevin was great to me while I was there at Fox for that audition. And I believe that I can call not only top level, highest level college football games, but NFL games as well. And that's a goal. And I think I proved that in my time at ESPN calling games.
So what made you choose ESPN at that point?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, ESPN at that time, this was pre-Pat McAfee, pre a lot of the changes at the top of the organization. I'd have to go through that with my agent as far as why this one over the other one. But I think the opportunity at ESPN was a bigger platform than at Fox at the time. But now, with everything that I've been able to prove over the last 3.5 years at ESPN, I just want to go to the network that has a plan, values storytelling, values journalism, and allows guys to truly be themselves, top to bottom. So I just want to continue to go out there and serve the fan, give the network what the network deserves. And that's high quality, entertaining sports coverage, but not at the expense of the players, not at the expense of the team or the people you're telling stories about, and has a plan for me long-term to continue to be able to thrive and help my teammates the best way possible.
Did you have a preference of calling games versus doing studio work?
Yeah, this is a great question because I get it a lot now. But if anyone remembers back to 2021, I didn't do any studio stuff. I only called games. So I came in, I didn't want to do studio. Why? Because it wasn't Kirk Herbstreit or Joe Tessitore in the booth that was hurting players when they were calling games, right? Joe Tessitore called the game at TCU my junior year, my redshirt junior year, where we threw for 1 million touchdowns and had the super exciting game on national TV on a Friday night that helped launch our Heisman campaign. So like calling the games was something that I felt like could be a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. I went in to get up one time in the offseason in 2022, and that was the end of that. They threw me on Monday Night Countdown because they thought that I was a great presence in studio as well as in the booth. So I don't have a preference. I'll say that if any TV networks or fans are listening, I enjoy both. It's a different dynamic. In the booth, you have 3 hours to tell stories, to talk about the game, to use your football knowledge to educate the fan and have a good time doing it. What's more exciting than watching a guy tiptoe down the sideline after a big catch or a big run, truck a guy, do a spin move and dive in the end zone? Like, you're not getting that excitement in the studio. But from a studio standpoint, there's just a lot of narratives that get created from studio, and to have an opportunity to tell guys stories the right way there while also combating some of the negative storylines that come out that aren't warranted, I'm always all for that as well.
But you'd like to get back to calling games. I'm pretty sure you said that your goal at one point was to be the best at calling games. Is that still a goal?
Oh yeah, it's definitely the goal. Wherever I go next, I want to be the best at calling games, and I want to be the best in studio. So for me, it's a double whammy. It's not about picking one side or the other. I've never done that. Never picked one side or the other, whether it's in sports. Yeah. I've always played multiple sports, whether it's in media or politics or any of that other stuff. So I want to call the best games on the number one team, college and pro, and I want to be the number one guy in studio. And to me, it's a process. It could be next year. It could be 5-10 years from now. But every time we get behind the mic, we're going to make sure we're putting our best foot forward.
Who do you think is the best analyst right now?
Ooh, that's a great question. Have you ever heard this phrase that everything in media is subjective?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some people like Stephen A. Smith style. Mm-hmm. Some people like Shannon Sharp style. Some people don't. Some people like Colin Cowherd style. For me, the best game analyst right now, yeah, that's a tough one, man, because everybody's got their own flavor. So instead of giving you an answer on who's the best game analyst or studio analyst, I'll just talk about their different styles. I think Greg does a really great job of breaking plays down. He doesn't necessarily focus on the highlights a ton. He more so focuses on giving you the information behind the play, what this guy did, what that guy didn't do. Troy Aikman gives you the quarterback perspective, and he gives you the quarterback perspective as if he's coaching the quarterback. Hey, he should have done this versus that coverage. He should have done this, almost as if he's telling you, this is what I would have done. And from a Hall of Fame quarterback, I think that's valuable to people when they watch. It's not as much storytelling like Chris Collinsworth. Collinsworth is a storyteller, man. He's going to tell you stories from back in the day. It's like you're sitting around a campfire, and he's got all the old war stories. But all these guys have different approaches. Tom Brady's still working through what he wants his identity to be. But Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. So he's earned the grace. He's earned the grace period to figure that out, even though people want to compare him to Olsen. So I don't think that any one of these guys, you can subjectively compare them to the next one, because they all have different styles. And of course, Tony Romo was the play predictor, doesn't do as much play predicting anymore. Yeah, but he's got his own style as well. And the long extended pauses, the holding of phrases, like whatever you feel like floats your boat. Every network is giving you something different right now. And I think I call games differently than all of them. So Herb Street is going to tell you where a guy's from, how tall he is, how much he weighs, and he's going to break down the play. And he's going to do that 75 times a game, and that's his style of calling games, and I've got no problem with that. I think everybody should be who they are, and I enjoy taking bits and pieces from everybody to create my own style, and I think it's pretty apparent that I have my own style when I call games.
What is your goal when you're calling games? What's the identity that you try to have in the broadcast booth?
Yeah, Brandon, this is great, because when I went to ESPN, my producer's name was Kim Belton, and he asked me, he's like, "Hey, what does the E in ESPN stand for?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. It's Entertainment Sports Programming Network." I'm being super analytical. Like I'm like, "All right, it's entertainment." He's like, "Okay, but that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, is it a big E or is it a little E?" as in big entertainment or little entertainment? And I said, well, I think it should be a big E. And he's like, exactly. It's supposed to be a big E. My goal in the booth is to make you feel like me and you are cracking back a couple beers at the bar. And I just so happen to have this encyclopedia of football knowledge, and I'm breaking it down to you to where if you're the super hardcore football fan, you know what I'm talking about and you're not bored. If you're the medium level knowledge football fan, you're enjoying yourself and you're learning something. And if you don't know anything about football, I'm not losing you. You're coming along for the ride. That is my goal. Make you feel like we are having the time of our lives watching one of the greatest games we have ever seen. And I think I've been able to accomplish that. And you can still get better in certain areas. And I work every single day to make sure that I pay attention to what's going on so that when I get right back in that booth, I'm right back on the bike like I never left. But that is my goal. I want you to feel like me and you were sitting at the bar, cracking back a couple beers, having the time of our lives.
Yeah, in recent years, you were widely viewed as an up and coming star through the rising through the broadcasting ranks. Did you ask ESPN why they felt you were expendable, or do you concern yourself with that?
I didn't ask. I didn't concern myself with that because at the end of the day, if your wife, your girlfriend comes to you and she says, hey, I want a divorce, and it's not like, hey, I want you to work on these things. I just want a divorce. Like, what are you fighting for, bro? Like, she wants somebody else. They want a different lifestyle. So for me, it was just about, hey, this is what I've been able to accomplish. I didn't accomplish it by myself, which is why I always mention the people behind the scenes. My last assignment for ESPN was the Flag Football Championships in July. And I worked with Steve Ackles, Bill Palladino, and a bunch of people behind the scenes that I've worked with in the past. And we had a blast calling those championships, shining a light on the young women who are going to be the future of flag football and potentially playing in the Olympics. And I approach every single project like it's my last project. I approach every project like it's important, and I give it the proper detail and preparation that it deserves. And I think that comes across on air. So rising star, not rising star, not wanting to do studio, and then all of a sudden replacing Randy Moss on Monday Night Countdown, like that's just a byproduct of the work and the people believing in you. So you need the people behind the scenes to believe in you to be successful in this business. I think I've earned that trust through the work that I put out on camera. And for whatever reason, they just felt like they didn't see a future there for me anymore. And that wasn't echoed to me in any type of way. It was just more of, hey, we're going to pay you and you can go home and be with your family. So it's like, thank you. I feel blessed that I get an opportunity to take care of my family and actually still be at home and continue to build. So I don't concern myself with what happened, why it happened. It happened. You got to find a way to continue to build and continue to work hard. And that's all you can do.
Would you be willing to return to ESPN in the future if that's where your path went?
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen guys leave a team and go back to a team? Yeah. The LeBron James left the Cleveland Cavaliers. People were burning his jerseys, right? And then he goes to Miami, comes back, wins a championship. Yeah. So like I said, for me, this isn't about burning bridges. There's nothing that I can do about the decision that was made. All I can do is continue to work hard, put my best foot forward, and show the fans why, I can be the best and I'm the best at what I do. So if ESPN changes course and my path leads back there, it's not something that I'm against.
How was doing First Take working with Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah. Stephen A. Is the king of what he does, and he's very powerful at ESPN. You've seen him bring guys in to First Take to be on there, and I wasn't on First Take a ton, but in my experiences being on there, I thought we had great dialogue. I thought it was a great contrast, should I say, and that was what was echoed to me. Stephen A. Smith is the king of making entertainment television and basing it off of that, and has strong opinions, which is what you need in a show format like that. He helped foster that show creative. It has Yeah, it's torn down players. It has. And I think a lot of players would tell you that. But if you can get the right people in there that are willing to combat that and have those highly educated football conversations, basketball conversations, sports conversations, you can avoid the character assassinations. Or I tell people this all the time. Stephen A. Smith, Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless at the time, these guys that are doing the everyday TV debate shows, whether you like it or not, they formulate and craft the opinion of the masses because they listen to them, and you get more from them than you do the players, right? Players have the once a week press conference, or you get them in the locker room. Well, these guys are on TV every single day creating, I don't want to say creating narratives, but because they are creating narratives, but more so analyzing the facts of how a guy played and then giving their opinion on it every single day. There's power in that. And within that power, you have to be careful that you're not shaping what a guy's character is based off the way he's playing. So for me, I enjoyed being on First Take because I enjoyed being able to combat the narratives when they were wrong and being able to have fun and debate with Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog and, being on there with Molly. It was enjoyable. So I don't look at that time as a bad time, and I don't look at Stephen A. as a bad guy. I just think that his job is to create and make waves, and he does that with the best of them when it comes to debate shows.
Did your opinion of Stephen A. Smith change at all from when you were a player compared to when you were in that room with him?
What do you mean?
Well, like you mentioned not liking the hot take style and the shows that are potentially tearing players down. So here you were as a player experiencing that, and then now you're in the room with him and watching him work, watching how the show operates. So did your opinion of him change at all when you were a player compared to then when you were working with him on First Take those couple of times?
I don't think my opinion of Stephen A. was something that I attributed to that statement. You know what I mean? It was more so the opinion of the shows in general. And I'll say this, there's a way to win on debate shows. And Stephen A. has mastered that. Yeah. Being able to watch him more up close and personal, being on the show repeatedly, you respect how they get to those points. Like I understand now how they get to that topic. And I know a lot of fans don't like how they get to that topic. But from my standpoint and other analysts' standpoint, you've seen other analysts be on the show, and one's a head coach of the Lakers now, right? JJ Redick. Yeah. And every chance he got on the show, he was tearing it down about how he didn't like this or how he didn't like that, or why is this a topic? Why is that a topic? The reason it's that way is because they're fighting for clicks, and they're fighting for attention, and they're fighting for viewership. So there are some extremes that go on that show. Yeah. But my goal has always been you have to find a way to win on Get Up. You have to find a way to win on First Take, win on NFL Live, win on SportsCenter. They're all different dynamics. They're all different shows, and not just you winning, but your teammates winning. You have to find a way to help your teammates win on those shows. So having seen it up close and personal, does it change my opinion of Stephen A? I don't know if I had an opinion of Stephen A prior or after the show. It's more of like, hey, the guy's a master at what he does. You got to respect the craft, whether you like the show or you don't like the show, whether you like the debates or you don't like the debates. He's the best at it.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand why some people would not enjoy that type of content, what First Take is and what Colin Cowherd's show is, but you certainly them doing it for multiple hours every single day, like you have to have respect for them as performers.
It's probably the best way to say it. They're performers. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all.
Yeah, no, same.
But what do you think about First Take and Stephen A and the debate shows?
I think Stephen A is an incredible performer. I think he's able to garner a lot of attention, and I mean, you could see it based on the topics, right? Like they focus on the Cowboys, they focus on the Lakers, they focus on LeBron James every single day. If they can build a topic around one of those things, they're going to do it, no matter where we are in the calendar.
Right.
So like it's maybe not necessarily for the hardcore sports fan to sit there for 2 hours every single day, but in terms of engagement and in terms of just like getting attention and being a performer, I mean, there's not really anybody better than Stephen A.
Yeah, I'd say the last part of that is what I have realized in my very short 4 years in media is that not every fan is as locked in as the analyst or is as locked in as you guys at Awful Announcing covering the sport.
Right.
So they might miss Monday and Tuesday.
Right.
But they're there on Wednesday. So if they didn't hear what they talked about Monday and Tuesday, them reshuffling the question and coming at it from a different angle on Wednesday, that fan doesn't care because they didn't even see what happened the previous days.
Yeah.
So I do think that the fan has advanced in a way that you don't have to do every segment on LeBron James, on Aaron Rodgers, on the Jets. You don't have to. But do I understand why the hosts and the producers go in that direction? 100%. I understand it. I didn't understand it when I got there, but in my couple of years at ESPN, I fully understood what they meant because a topic of the Jets, the Cowboys, and LeBron James or Aaron Rodgers is always going to get more clicks, more views, more shares on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever than a topic of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I love Duval. I love him. I actually watch the games. I actually study every quarterback. But from a producer standpoint, they know that it's not going to get as much viewership.
Right. Yeah. It's really not designed for somebody to watch it for 10 hours every single week. Like that's not how the show is built.
It's not to labor on the point, but it's kind of like this, Brandon, for the viewers that are watching and people who love sports. When you watch a Monday night football game or Sunday night or Thursday night and the news is coming on, maybe not Thursday night because it's on Amazon, but the news has like a 5-second block that they get to interrupt near the end of the game.
Yeah.
What is that news block about? Is it about the guy saving the cat out of the tree? Is it about how great it was that this man is helping homeless people do this, that, and the third? No. It come on for that 5-second block and they say, man killed in the street by gun-willing illegal immigrant or by black guy with a hoodie on back at 10. And I'm like, what is going on, man? Like we lead with the negative so often that it's very hard for fans to be positive. And when fans are positive, it's like the Kansas City Chiefs are 6-0. Well, guess what? They're 6-0, but people are saying they're not that good.
Yeah.
It's like they're 6-0, guys. I know Mahomes threw 2 picks and only threw for 150 yards, but god damn, the defense is killing it right now.
Yeah.
So we're so wired to be negative in today's society. That's why you see a lot of negativity in the sports media. And it took me not gonna lie, 3.5 years to figure that out because I feel like you can be positive and I'll continue to be positive. But that's why people lead with the negative. It's because that's what they think people want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is sensationalized.
There you go.
You had, I remember, I think it was about a year ago, you called out the NFL media for media. You called out the NFL for media layoffs. And I think part of it was talking about, it was just kind of like bad optics for how much the NFL makes. And then here they were laying people off. I'm curious if you at all feel similarly about ESPN laying off employees while potentially handing out $20 million contracts to other employees.
Brandon, you're asking me about layoff. Asking the guy that got laid off about layoffs. It's a great question. I don't think I called out the NFL. I think I said it just was bad optics.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if I like physically or wordily called them out about laying off people. It's interesting. Like sometimes in the media, this, like you don't comment on everything. Like I'm not an expert at everything. Football, yes, like that's my expertise. Basketball, yes, I was highly recruited out of high school to play basketball for Florida, who had just won a national championship. I know basketball. Track and field, 100%. Like my accolades and my strengths are all there in those sports. I don't know hockey like that. Okay, so if I'm going to talk hockey, I'm gonna bring somebody else in, and I think my experience was kind of like my experience in the NFL. I get to the NFL at first. I don't know anything about it. Never had a parent or sibling or anyone in my family be a professional athlete. We get 90 guys on the roster. And a couple months later, we've got 53 guys on the roster. Well, guess what? I built a lot of relationships with those other 37 guys. And now all those relationships are gone. And some of those guys never get another chance to play again. And that hurts you in that regard. Well, TV is pretty similar because layoffs happen. Layoffs happen in every walk of life. So when I sat there and I had to watch a crew on Monday Night Countdown that had done the best it had ever done in, I think, 7 years, led by the legendary Suzy Kolber, led by Hall of Fame quarterback Steve Young, Booger McFarland, myself, Adam Schefter, and I watched that have to go to the wayside because Suzy Kolber and Steve Young were laid off. That hurt, you know? That hurts you as an analyst because they invited you in with open arms. Like, I'll give you my first experience on Monday Night Countdown. Randy Moss, they brought me in. This was the very cold game, 2021. It was a very cold game for the Buffalo Bills, and they brought me in to read off the Heisman finalists. That was it. That was my first experience on Monday Night Countdown. I come in the truck, Suzy, Steve, Booger, Adam, Randy, they're in there. They're just chopping it up, talking football, laughing, having good conversations. I'm like, man, they seem like a family. And I'm in there. I have one job. I do my job. It's freezing cold. I didn't understand that I needed to wear more layers because the temperature said it was like 30, but like 30 in Buffalo is crazy.
Yeah.
So
wind chill.
A wind chill was ridiculous, and it was snowing. And so I'm freezing as I'm calling off these Heisman finalist names. I'm done. I'm ready to go to the truck and get out of Dodge. Randy Moss calls me over and he says, "Hey man, you want to do You Got Mossed?" I'm like, you don't got to ask me twice. Yes, I would love to do You Got Mossed. And I did You Got Mossed with the entire crew, had a blast doing it. And it was Randy Moss who gave me that opportunity on Countdown to do more than just read off the Heisman finalists. And I think that was what led to me, along with the Get Up work, led to me being on Monday Night Countdown. So I'm forever indebted and grateful to Randy for that, because Randy didn't want to travel anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why he moved to Sunday Countdown. They didn't move Randy to Sunday Countdown because they wanted to elevate me. They moved him there because he didn't want to go to these cold games no more. So he gave me that opportunity. So I know this question was about layoffs. It's tough to see it happen. And I mentioned it when Suzy and Steve got laid off as well, from a standpoint of like thankful to them for everything they did. Do you agree with all the decisions that are made in TV or at your local job or your national job, or who the president is, or No, nobody agrees with all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the company's going to do what they want to do. And yes, I've seen ESPN sign other people since they laid myself and Samantha Ponder off. But that's just the business that they want to do. And I don't have any control over that. And I know we call the fans of our show Outta Pocket with RG3 the pocket watchers, but I'm not pocket watching anybody else, man. Like, I got way too many responsibilities to be worrying about that. So I'm just going to continue to enjoy my life, and ESPN can build how they want to build.
Do you still believe you could be a successful starting quarterback in the NFL today?
Everybody asks me this question, man. It's a buzz question. It gets viewership. I'm 34 years old. I don't know how many 34 plus year old quarterbacks there are in the NFL, but if a team signed me tomorrow, do I think I could go out there and start and help a team win? Yes, I do. I mean, every guy that calls games, every guy that's an analyst, most of them retire older. They're 40, 37, 38 years old, and they'd have no desire to play football anymore. What's up, kiddo? For me, I'm not banging on anybody's door to give me an opportunity to play. You can hear my 1-year-old daughter here. Like, I'm here to be the best dad I could possibly be. But if a team was to give me that call and say, "Hey, we need you. It's the Super Bowl. we don't have a guy and we need you," Can I go out there, lace them up, and give you what you need to get and get through a game? 1,000% I could. But is that my focus right now? Not at all, man.
Yeah.
I'm still in shape. Like, shout out to my wife for training me. Shout out to the people who helped me, stay in good health. I'm in great health. I'm enjoying life right now. If a team called, I take the call, but I'm not calling nobody.
Do teams still call? When's the last time a team called to gauge your interest?
Yeah, I got multiple calls last year.
Yeah.
To gauge my interest in coming back to play. It just has to be the right situation. And I've heard this before. Like, remember when Cam Newton was like doing his thing on his pod and telling people that he ain't gonna do this because he wants this opportunity. And the number one phrase was beggars can't be choosers. I know you've heard that before.
Yeah.
I'm not begging. I'm not begging. So I can choose. And if it's an opportunity to come in and help a young guy, like Chicago called, about Justin Fields. But Justin's not there anymore, right? But this was 2 years ago and last year. Carolina called, if we want to get into the nitty gritty of it. But it's got to be the right opportunity. And for your older guys like myself, I'm 34. I'm an older guy now. I'm not trying to go in and be the fourth quarterback or do anything like that. If I can go help mentor a young guy and be a backup to an up-and-coming star, that doesn't bother me. If a team needs me to start, that certainly is an opportunity that I would jump on immediately. But like I said, I'm not focused on that. That's not where my head is at. So I enjoy watching the game. I watch more film now than any player or any analyst in the league. And I know there's some out there that think that nobody can do what they do or nobody watches more than them. What are they supposed to say? Right?
Yeah.
You go on air and you're like, yeah, you know what? This guy watches more tape than me. No. Hey, you know what? I go on air. This guy's better at this than I am. And I don't think I should be here. Nobody's saying that stuff, man. So I enjoy it. I enjoy this process and it's kept me in the game to the point where I knew if I had to lace them up tomorrow, if any team called me tomorrow and I had to lace them up, I'd be ready to play. But it's not what I'm looking for.
What about coaching? Would you ever be interested in that?
Yeah. I had a really, really great conversation with Deion Sanders a few weeks ago. I just sat down in his office for an hour and just talked about all this stuff. And the part of coaching is a lot of guys have to start at the bottom. And people will probably listen to that and say, oh, man, any industry, you got to start at the bottom. And it's like, no, not as athletes. JJ Redick went from first take to the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay. Steve Kerr went from an analyst to being a coach for the Golden State Warriors and not a low level coach, the high level coach,
Yeah.
Steve Nash, Jason Kidd. Now, have the results always been great? No, but they have been given the opportunities. It's the same thing with Antonio Pierce with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Same
Jeff
thing
Saturday.
with Jeff Saturday with the Colts. Like, it ranges in success. Antonio Pierce was very successful last year. This year it's been tough because they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
So to the long answer to your very short question is coaching is something that I would certainly be interested in. It's got to be the right opportunity. Kellen Moore is a guy that I went to that was in college at the same time as I was. We were freshman All-Americans together when he was at Boise and I was at Baylor. He went from being a quarterback coach for, I believe, one season, and he was the offensive coordinator the next. Those types of opportunities are very rare, but I believe players have earned the right to get those opportunities faster. And I don't know how anybody feels about Kellen Moore. He's had a lot of top offenses, but have they won in the playoffs? All that stuff is valuable and warranted. But I think players want those opportunities because they have earned the right to have them through their playing career. And not every player can coach. Trust me, I get it. But there's more players out there that can coach better than the opportunities that they've been given.
Yeah. You had a knack for, we'll say, tantalizing audiences with double entendres when you were an analyst. You had let's see how much wood these beavers can take, big Penix energy, premature snapulation, orgy in the end zone. Were those were those pre-planned, or are those types of things, do those kind of roll off the cuff?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 99.9% of them roll off the cuff. But I had moved away from it because it became a point where you've heard analysts say, "Man, what a big hole that was."
Yeah.
And that's just normal football lingo.
Yeah.
So the one you mentioned first with how much wood the Beavers can take, what was that game? That was Stanford, the Stanford Cardinal, going up against the Oregon State Beavers. What do Beavers do? They build dams with what? With wood. So, like, to me, sometimes those double entendres were taken out of context when it comes to the game that was being played. Orgy in the end zone. Alex Orgy's last name is Orgy. He scored a touchdown. He was in the end zone. So there was an orgy in the end zone. You get what I'm saying? So, like, I'm not mad about it, to be quite honest with you. I think people got great laughs out of them. But I think when you
the internet loved it.
Yeah, when you and execs loved it too. But it's because they have a sense of humor. Execs do have a sense of humor. It just became to the point where people were removing the context from the call, because the context actually makes the call funny.
Yeah.
But if you remove the context from the call, then it's not funny anymore, right? And they're like, "Oh, why is this guy saying that there's a big hole right there?" Well, it's because the right guard and the right tackle moved the defense to make a massive hole. So I'm saying all that to say it's something that you probably can't name the last double entendre that I had made, but I think that people want to laugh when they're watching the game. They don't want to be offended, and I don't think I offended anyone with those comments, because they understood the context to the game. And let's have some fun, people. Okay.
Yeah.
Oklahoma Sooners had a quarterback. He was the third quarterback on the roster. I didn't know that he was the third quarterback on the roster because they had 5 quarterbacks, right? And you study the first guy and the backup. You don't want to see the third quarterback in any game. Well, his name was General Booty. All right. And General Booty was getting loose on the sideline because he had to go in the game. So you say, Booty's getting loose on the sideline. Well, what if his name was Clark? And I said, Clark is getting loose on the sideline. No one would bat an eye. But because you say Booty is getting loose on the sideline, people laugh. It's okay to laugh and have a good time, as long as you're, I guess if this is the line, you can be right there.
Yeah.
You can't step over it. So I didn't step over the line. We had a good time, and we move on, and we continue to call games the best we can.
Yeah, well, the context is what makes it a double entendre. Like that's the double part.
No, I'm with you. You know what I'm saying? So just have a good time. Don't worry about it. And but I was much more selective with my words because I don't, and it's obviously true now, but I didn't want to just be a guy that can only be at one network.
Yeah,
and other networks have a certain set of standards that they don't want to go past. So I always made sure I never went past. But I do remember my guy Collinsworth having a lot of double entendres a few years ago. So it's like it happens, and sometimes it happens on accident. Sometimes it happens on purpose. For me, I don't walk into a game with a double entendre ready to go.
Yeah. What happened to the Surviving Washington book? Why was that scrapped?
Wasn't the right time, and I felt like I was being pressured to disclose certain things that I wasn't ready to disclose yet. So for me, at that time, if you remember, I believe it was the cheerleaders and a couple female execs at the former female execs at the organization had come out, I believe, with a lawsuit, or if it wasn't a lawsuit, it was a very strongly worded letter that they were going to the press and talking about. And I just felt like it was a disservice to them and what they were going through for me to release the book at that time. So that's why I scrapped it. Big picture is there's many more chapters to a book. And my story has been one that's been a roller coaster ride through this professional journey. It doesn't need to just focus on that one thing. So I'm never, I don't shy away from the fact that it was written, but
Yeah.
at that time, it didn't make sense to cloud the space with my own story when I felt like the other stories were more important.
How close were you to joining Josh Harris in buying the Commanders from Daniel Snyder? How close were you to being part of that ownership group?
That close.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. There were some analysts out there who kind of joked and said I created a GoFundMe account for buying the Commanders or being a part of the group. But no, I was not. It wasn't a GoFundMe; it was a real thing. It's ironic now because the reason I didn't, I did help Josh Harris raise money for buying the Commanders, not his, but bringing people to the table to join that group who are in the group. So the reason that I did not join the group, which I'm saying is funny now, it was because of the situation with Tom Brady. So, I was an analyst at ESPN, and to continue to be an analyst and be able to cover NFL teams, it would have been problematic to be in an ownership group of a team while calling games or calling or doing studio work for that team. So that's the reason I wasn't in the group. Tom Brady is now the top analyst for Fox and an owner, minority owner for the Las Vegas Raiders. But it's not something that I bat an eye at. One, it's Tom Brady. Okay, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, and he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. But for me, I'm always going to support the team. If there's an opportunity in the future to join and be a minority owner, Josh knows that I'm 100% interested in something like that. I know Kevin Durant has talked about wanting to become a minority owner of the team. So that is certainly, I would say, a possibility. I have a great relationship with Josh Harris and the group, Magic Johnson. So we'll see, but it's not something that I'm pressing and pushing the medal for, because I want to be a broadcaster and do it to the best of my ability. And if that means not joining the Washington Commanders ownership group because I can't have access to certain things, then I'm okay with that. But if they come to me in the future, I'll certainly be ready to make that happen, because that would be a dream come true. So never going to shy away from that.
So how hard do you think it is for Brady to be calling these games without that access? Like obviously that's something that you valued.
Okay, do I value talking to the coaches, being in the building, being able to talk to the strength coach, talk to the in college, you talk to the SID, in the pros, you'd be able to talk to their communication president and get the stories that you can't find online and you can't get by word of mouth from a mom or a dad. Yes, I value that. I think it helps in storytelling. My question to you would be, do you feel like Tom Brady at this point in his NFL broadcasting career is a storyteller about the players that he's covering?
No.
Exactly. So in Tom Brady's situation, when he's more so breaking down the play, he's telling stories about his career because he's the greatest quarterback of all time. And I think people want to hear it from his perspective. I don't think it hurts him based off of what he has been doing to this point. In the future, if he becomes more of a storyteller about the players, could it hurt? Yes, it will. That will definitely limit your ability to do those things. Is he predicting plays? I haven't heard a game where Brady's predicted plays. I've heard him tell you what he would do, but I haven't heard him tell you what the other team is going to do. Because if he was doing that, yes, going to practice on Friday and you see a red zone play and then you see them line up in the same formation on game day, yes, you're going to be able to call that play out because you just watched it. So I just think for what he's doing right now, I don't think it hurts him. And he can do whatever he wants. Whatever a TV network allows you to do, that's what you can do. Get drunk on air, say cuss words on air, talk about religion in a negative way, whatever it may be. If they allow you to do it, you can do it. That's the bottom line. And that's the new age media that we live in. And it's your decision whether you think that's good or not.
So would ESPN have allowed you to become a minority owner, or were they against it?
that was not going to happen. It was that was the conversation that was had, not with ESPN. I'm never going to throw anything out there that is not factually correct. So that conversation was never approached with ESPN, but I was told unequivocally that would not happen.
Gotcha. You mentioned earlier, obviously, how much you valued being a mentor to Lamar Jackson. How important is it to Lamar's legacy? I mean, he is right now on it seems like on the verge of winning another MVP, especially after the performance last night. How important is it to his legacy that he wins a Super Bowl?
Oh yeah. At first I thought you were gonna ask how important was my mentorship to his legacy. I was like, it don't matter. It don't matter, because like at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson is the one that's going out there and doing the work. Like he's the one that's going and playing. So I don't ever want anyone to get that twisted. I don't ever look at anything Lamar has done, any quarterback that I've mentored. I don't look at anything they've done and take credit for that.
Yeah.
But when you ask about his legacy, if he wins three Super Bowls, he's definitely, stamped. But if he wins 3 MVPs, which he is the front runner right now to win the MVP at this point in the season, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson is a first ballot Hall of Famer with 3 MVPs, period. He don't ever have to win a Super Bowl. But this is what people don't understand about Lamar Jackson. I got to see it for 3 years in the way that he worked, the way that he learned. His number one goal is to bring Super Bowls back to Baltimore. That's it. That's what he said when he got drafted. You could see the anger on his face when he went 32nd, and you've seen it in the way that he plays. So when you talk about his legacy, I don't think Lamar Jackson cares what anybody else thinks about his legacy. I think he cares about what he thinks about his legacy. And for him, winning a Super Bowl is everything. He could be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He could be a 15-time first team All-Pro. He could win 5 MVPs. This man will not care unless he wins at least 1 Super Bowl. And I can tell you right now, it'll be a windfall once that happens. I don't think Lamar Jackson winning 1 Super Bowl means that that's all he wins throughout his career. I think it's a windfall for a number of reasons. Gives him the confidence that he can do it at the highest level. But I think it also gives him and the team the confidence that they can beat the one guy who seems like he's poised to be the next Tom Brady when it comes to dominating in Super Bowls, and that's Patrick Mahomes. So importance of his legacy, for him, it's everything. It's paramount. It's the top priority, the number one priority. He would turn in every MVP and every win he's ever had to go have 3 losing seasons and have 1 season where he wins a Super Bowl. That's how much it means to him.
Flacco was still there when you went to Baltimore, right? He was, so Lamar was the backup at that point. There were a lot of people who questioned whether he could ever be an effective starting quarterback at that point. So when you went to Baltimore, Flacco's the starter, Lamar's the backup. Most of us don't really know what type of NFL quarterback he's going to be. What was your initial opinion of him then?
There's this story about Patrick Mahomes. I believe it was from Tyreek Hill when Mahomes got there and he sat for a year behind Alex Smith. And I think Tyreek said, if you watched Mahomes practice, you would never think he would ever be a starting quarterback in the NFL after that first year. I think that was a similar sentiment about Lamar Jackson. He came into the NFL, different read structure, being asked to do different things, different offense, different coordinator, and he went through his rookie lumps. It just so happened that when he became the starter because Joe Flacco messed up his hip his rookie year, we literally changed the entire offense in 2 weeks. Joe got hurt right before the bye week. We went into the bye week, practiced a couple days, changed our entire offense to more of a zone read, play action pass, RPO system. Came back after the bye week, practiced it for an entire week after that. And then if I'm correct, I think we went undefeated or maybe lost 1 game the rest of the season with Lamar being the starting quarterback. So I knew it when we went into our very first game and Lamar was making reads and throws that he had never made in training camp, that he had never made throughout the entire season being on the scout team, and that he hadn't made in practice that week leading up to the game. That showed me this guy's a gamer. He doesn't use the week to be perfect. He uses the week to get himself ready for game day. I've never seen a better quarterback on game day than Lamar Jackson. Never. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And that showed me time and time again, because it wasn't just one time. It was every week, 2018, 2019, through the 2020, 2021 season. I watched it. I'm like, damn, how did he make that throw when I've seen him miss this read and miss this throw 4 times throughout the week? He never lets that impact his confidence. When he shows up on game day, he remembers the fact that he missed that throw and that read 4 times in practice, and he hits it on game day. It's a beautiful thing. He's got a beautiful mind, and I'm not a guy, anybody knows from my history, I'm not a guy that like sits here and is like, oh my God, this guy's the greatest of all time. Lamar Jackson earned my respect with the way that he played the game and how he showed up on game day ready to roll no matter what happened during the week.
As we finish up here, I want to ask you about Outta Pocket with RG3. So how is that going? How are you enjoying that project?
No, it's been a blast, man. It's really fun. You know, you want to have these conversations with high-level people. So we've been able to sit down with Deion Sanders, Shallow and Shadur, who are 2 of the biggest players in college football right now. Travis Hunter, who's, you know, 2-way superstar, sat down with Dana White. But you also want to sit down and have conversations that can somewhat be difficult. You know, we sat down with Mike Norvell at Florida State when they're having one of the worst seasons they've ever had in school history. That's not an easy conversation. You don't get to laugh and joke the entire conversation when that's happening. So it's been a lot of fun from that standpoint. Going to have an opportunity to sit down with Dan Lanning at Oregon. They're the #1 team in the country. And we've just been able to provide an environment where people can speak freely and speak their mind, to where we're not bringing you on the show to debate with you, right? We're bringing you on the show to have an open conversation, and you get to finish your thought. And that's not really what the world is about right now. People don't listen to hear it from someone else's perspective. They listen because they want to come back at it. You know, hey, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest. You start to tell them why he's the greatest quarterback in the galaxy, and mid-sentence they're interrupting you saying, well, he's thrown for 10 interceptions this year. Instead of just listening to you and hearing out everything that you're saying and then coming back with their rebuttal after you finish your thoughts. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. The fan reaction to the show has been phenomenal, from a viewership standpoint, from a subscriber standpoint. And right now we're still doing it independently. So we're in conversations with brands and distributors to help take us even to an even higher level, to continue to grow the show. But it's really cool that when you really believe in something and you believe in the conversations that you can have, that the fans react positively to that. So it's been really, really cool to have this process go on. And we want people to tell us, you know, who they want us to bring on next, because at the end of the day, you have to talk to the people that people want to hear from, and the people who have something to say that's relevant to what's going on right now. So we call them the pocket watchers, the people who support our show, our army, to say the least. Just let us know who you want us to talk to next, and we'll go get that interview.
How was the reaction to the Dana White interview?
Woo! It's a great. Yeah, I'm sure you see some of the reaction. Dana White is the CEO and president of one of the most powerful entertainment companies in the world right now. And Dana White has a lot to say about a lot of different things. So when we went into the conversation, let me put it this way. The reaction has been people on the right loving it, people on the left not loving it, people in the middle saying, thank you, man. Thank you for giving him an opportunity and giving people an opportunity to have open dialogue without pushing your own views on people. So Dana, we talked about the UFC 308, Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria, his Mount Rushmore, how he raised his kids, his motivation to people who are building a career and how they should build it around the things that they love, how he wants to be remembered. We talked about that for 45 minutes. And the MMA community has taken that and dispersed it everywhere. But the last 28 minutes of the podcast were about the election and about his support for Donald Trump, who has supported him at the UFC and a friend that he's had for 20 plus years. And right now, it just feels like any conversation that's had around Donald Trump or around Kamala Harris, it gets spun or twisted to be whatever somebody wants it to be. And I thought that we did the right thing by allowing Dana White to speak from his perspective about a guy that he is like best friends, really good friends with in Donald Trump. Me and you probably both know someone that we don't like that someone else loves. And I think it's important to hear the perspective from both sides of why these people don't like this person and why this person says that they do. And I think that's what creates the conversation. That's why we had a clip yesterday on X have 5 million views and 50 or 60,000 likes, because it opens the door for dialogue. Doesn't mean that you're going to agree with the person is saying, but it is going to allow you an opportunity to dissect it. And I think that that's valuable. I think we need that more. I think we need nonpartisan conversations and allow people to fully deliver their point. And if they're wrong, tell them they're wrong. But our job is to give them the space to either be wrong or be right. And that is not a condemnation on whoever's interviewing them.
Has the reaction and the social media discourse to that clip of Dana White talking about Donald Trump, has that made you want to talk more politics, less politics, or no effect?
I don't think it's had any effect. I'll tell you this, I do not get caught up in the views and the likes, because if you get caught up in the views and the likes, everybody would have an OnlyFans. Okay. You have to go where the story is, and you have to have the conversations with the people who have expertise on what they're talking about. So we just did an interview with an Estonian 400-meter hurdler who probably 97% of America has never heard of. All right. His name is Rasmus Magi. And the reason we did the interview is because he's the only 400-meter, he's the second 400-meter hurdler in history to make 3 consecutive finals in the 400-meter hurdles at the Olympics, right? That interview got, I don't know, 70 likes on X, and it got 57 or 60,000 views.
Yeah.
But we did it and we put it out there because it was an important conversation to have with someone who is an expert in their field in 400 hurdles around the Olympics. We don't get caught up in the likes and the views. The likes and the views are going to come. You have to have the conversations that warrant people coming back for more. And I think that the Dana White conversation certainly warranted people coming back for more. And it'll open the door for people to come on our show knowing that, no, you're not going to be able to come on and just spew blatant misinformation and blatant falsehoods, but you will be able to articulate your point to the fullest without us interrupting you before it's time to continue the conversation. So sure. I enjoyed the process, enjoyed sitting down with Dana, and he's honest. And listen, he is honest about everything, even the shortcomings in his own life. He's honest about all those things, and that's all we can ask for.
You've created content for ESPN. You've now created content on your own. Do you have a preference, like the ready-made platform of something as large as ESPN, or the grind of building your own platform?
I will say this: there's a lot of learning that happens in between doing things on your own, whereas doing it with a big network. I think that there's a benefit in both. I think. Hold on one second. This award right here, this is from 2023. This is an award that they gave our entire crew at ESPN for the sit down that we did with Jalen Hurts, Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick about the evolution of the Black quarterback in Philly, Randall Cunningham, Rodney Peete. And we had that conversation and it was done so well, right? We're on the steps with the Rocky statue and then we're sitting inside the museum. And the production team did such an amazing job of that. They gave us a National Association of Black Journalists award for that piece, right? I want to do more things like that. And you say, oh, well, how can you do that and call games and be in the studio? Well, I did it at ESPN. We did it at ESPN and won an award, very prestigious award for it. So I've tried to take that same approach to what I do outside of ESPN now that I'm not there anymore. And we did a really nice promo for Florida State for the conversation that we had with Mike Norvell. We did I thought it was sweet promo for Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington Commanders for that game, leading up to that game and that hype. So I enjoy creating content, but it's about the storytelling. It's not just content. Yes, I have raced an F1 car on foot in a 40-yard dash. Okay, that's fun. Yes, I have eaten a massive croissant. That is also fun. But the best part about it is being able to tell those stories. And the team that we have right now that's doing it for me has been phenomenal. I'm very thankful for them. But I'm appreciative of them because I was appreciative of the people that work behind closed doors at ESPN. Because really, we got this award because of them, because of the editing, because of the setup, because of the changes in the camera. And people don't show enough love to those people. We always talk about the guy who's going to make $20 million a year or the one that's making $18 million a year. And, oh, how great is this guy? Well, guess what? They have to allow them the space to be great. And that's what I enjoy doing with my team. And that's why I enjoy content creation so much, because it's not about me. It's about the story that we're trying to tell.
Robert, you were awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
No, Brandon, you guys are doing an amazing job. So once again, congrats on the podcast. Congrats on what you guys are doing there at Awful Announcing. And hopefully we'll have some news soon about what's next on this side. But appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Thanks.
Appreciate
that is Robert Griffin III. I'm Brandon Contes. This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to this podcast. Please also subscribe to Awful Announcing's YouTube page. But regardless of how you consume Awful Announcing and the Awful Announcing Podcast, thanks for listening and be good.
Thanks for listening to the Awful Announcing Podcast. For the latest news spanning the sports media landscape and more, check out awfulannouncing.com and follow us at Awful Announcing.